Tracy has a question for you. She says, if your emergency fund needs to increase from 3 to 6 months of expenses to 18 to 24 months of expenses in retirement, when do you need to start building up cash beyond that 6 months if you hope to retire early, especially in this case? What's the rule of thumb or how she can start thinking about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We get this question all the time because people, I think the way we talk about it sounds so matter of fact and so linear. When you're in your accumulation phase, you need 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash. When you retire, you need 12 to 18 months. So it's almost like as you're, packing up your desk, and then as you walk out of the office on your last day of work, you immediately go figure out how you get 12 to 18 months of living expenses. But in practice, that's not really the way that it works. Our day job, we're fee-only financial advisors, so we help hundreds of people navigate this transition from the working world to the non-working world, from financial dependence to financial independence. And so we actually kind of walk this path with folks. And what most often happens is it's a gradual thing through time. As you begin getting close to retirement, as you begin moving towards that final date, you will slowly start to increase your cash position naturally. We all kind of do this, whether that be through your saving strategy, meaning, okay, I was maxing this and putting money here and doing my after-tax brokerage account. And instead of doing my after-tax, I'm going to start building up cash. Or it might be through portfolio rebalancing. As you begin to rebalance your portfolio in that 3 to 5 years leading up to retirement, you might naturally shift from more risk on to risk off assets. In my opinion and in my experience, it's not a light switch. It's not something that just goes from, okay, today I've got 6 months and then tomorrow I've got 18 months. It's a gradual transition that usually happens over the course of anywhere from 24 to 60 months, I would say.
Yeah, Bo, anybody who's out there part of the FIRE, I like to call it the FINE movement, the financial independence next endeavor, because retiring sounds so formal and it sounds like you're done.
Sure.
And that's just not the experience I've seen from all the early retirees or the transitioners we've dealt with. So here's what I would tell you if you're worried about this, is that personal finance, there's a key word there, is that it gets very personal as you're actually trying to figure out how you implement your distribution plan. It's easy for me to give guidance. We can talk about 4% withdrawal rates, safe withdrawal rates, and all the research and so forth. But all that is napkin planning to a large degree. As you're getting in within that 5 to 7 year window of actually retiring, it makes sense to measure twice, cut once, because you've only had one retirement or one transition. It might as well bring in somebody who's done this hundreds of times, because they're just going to know where your blind spots are. They're going to actually be able to model out, because you might have, everybody's different. It's kind of like your fingerprints or snowflakes, and the fact that, do you have a pension or do you have some type of income stream that's going to be coming in because maybe you retired out of the military or the government, you were in public service, or you were a teacher. There's all kind of things that might be changing the way your health insurance is structured, whether you have income coming in that offsets that and what you have to save for yourself. And all of that is going to flavor how much cash is going to be needed. And that's why I always encourage people, stress test it and actually run a full in-depth cash flow plan. And I don't think that you can do that off of just doing benchmark and basic case study type things that we do on the Money Guy Show. So that's why we always talk about the abundance cycle, is as you're approaching retirement, please pay it forward and consider taking the relationship to the next level.
You know what I'm always amazed by for folks that are approaching retirement? And I don't know why this is the case, but I'll have a phone call with someone and I'll say, okay, hey, well, what's your monthly burn rate? What are your living expenses? How much it costs you to run the household the way you want to run it? And they're like, oh, I know how much I make. I know what my paycheck is, but I don't know. And then they're like, well, if we're planning for retirement and you got to live on, you need to have, and like maybe you don't have to budget, right? There are times where you can like graduate past budgeting, but you need to have a really good idea of what your living expenses are now. And then realistically, what are they going to be in retirement if you are approaching that? I'm just amazed at how few people actually have a beat on that, actually have done the work to track how much am I spending, what do I want to do, what's the life I want to live, so that I can make sure before I actually exit the workforce, I know I'm in a good foundational footing.
Well, and then we always have to play the detective role of, we take what their income is, we back out the taxes, we back out the savings rates, and then we say, okay, this is what you should have left over. And you're like, well, wait a minute, There's all these holes and gaps, and like, yeah, this is why you need to spend some time on this endeavor, is because you actually need to be more purposeful with how you spend your money, because that's actually what's important, is what is your spend or burn rate, and then how much do you have in assets, so you can figure out if there's an intersection point where you do get to the point. That's why we also love doing the net worth statement every year, is because you start paying attention to these numbers and variables, and you start realizing how close are you to actually building financial independence.
Great.